Hey everybody, it's Safi and Marco, Dish Out on Movies, the only movie review show on YouTube to review movies in terms of food. It's just Marco here once again, and I am here to talk about Hell's Kitchen Season 22, Episode 13. This episode was pretty good, because it literally just predicted all the things that I said last video. It proved everything that I said was right. And it was kind of entertaining to watch because it was like watching what I knew was going to happen. It was like very, very predictable in that way. But it was also very good because, I don't know, it was just a good episode to me. So I would say it was a good step up from last week. Because last week, really wasn't a fan of that episode as much. I didn't really like the challenges. And I didn't like the outcome because it really felt last week like Gordon was just giving people the aprons, the jackets, in the order of how he would rank them personally. So that's what it felt like to me. And this episode just proved that because, it was a pretty embarrassing episode to say the least. So first off, they did this challenge where the chefs had to cook dishes that would not only impress a judge, but they would also look good on Instagram, because then the Instagram voters, people on Instagram, they're going to get to vote and say, like, if they like the dishes. And so, yeah, I thought that was kind of idiotic and one of the stupidest things I've ever heard of, because the people on Instagram, including me, we can't taste the dishes. And so, like, all the weeks past where I've said, like, oh, I think that dish is the best dish. I think that dish is the worst dish. That's not really an opinion that warrants, like, giving them actual points on the show, because I'm not able to taste their dishes. I'm sure that if I tasted their dishes for every single episode of the season, what I have said would have been a lot different. You know what I mean? And so I really thought that was stupid. I get what Gordon was trying to do, because he was trying to emphasize how that is important to market and to, share your food on Instagram or whatever. But I don't know, it just feels kind of weird, and I guess he was just trying to be creative. But I just maybe what he could do. Of course, it wouldn't really. It kind of would defeat the purpose of the challenge. But maybe he could, like, have a Hell's Kitchen lottery or Hell's Kitchen sweepstakes where, like, the top 10 fans get to, like, come to Hell's Kitchen and judge dishes for a challenge or something. Like, maybe he could do something like that, because, like, I just think that, like, people voting on food that they haven't tasted is kind of, like, ignorant, because it kind of takes the whole point away from, like, cooking the food to taste good. Like, I didn't like that. But Sammy, surprisingly, well, they start off the episode, I should say, with, Sammy and Jonathan. They both got really drunk and they partied too hard. Sammy feels terrible. She, like, is feeling sick all day, and Jonathan, he drank so much, and then Gordon just, he was bantering and just, making a bunch of jokes, and so he called Jonathan a sack of shit. And it was so funny because I didn't even hear that. Like, I wasn't even really, like, it didn't even register with me, because, it's just how Gordon talks. But Jonathan is such a crybaby that, like, this whole entire episode, he's, like, fixated on Gordon calling him a sack of shit, saying that he looks like a sack of shit. And I was like, see, this is exactly what I said that he was like when Jason said his name in the elimination, and he threw a temper tantrum and everything, and he went in the dorm and hid like a little girl. Like, that's exactly what he's like. And then Sammy, though, she made a dish that was so bad in this challenge that the judge was roasting her. I mean, I've seen the Hell's Kitchen compilation videos because, like, they just pop up, like, on days when you're bored. The Hell's Kitchen compilation videos, they just pop up right when you need them. And I've seen, like, the one where they have, like, the top most mean judges. And I gotta say, like, this judge deserves to be there because it's not that he's wrong. It's just that he was savage. He was not, like, holding back anything. Like, he said Sammy's dish looks like a bag of Cheetos on the plate. He says it looks like gummy worms, and I was like, damn, no. But I kind of agreed. I thought it looked terrible, too. But that is one miss out of all of Sammy's hits this whole season. And she knew that she did a bad job, and she didn't take it personally. I mean, could you imagine if he had said that about Jonathan's dish? Like, Jonathan, the whole episode, he would have been crying and, you know, like, just going, yeah, that guy said my dish looked like gummy worms. Wah! You know, that's what he would be doing. And then Jonathan's dish, though, the judge did not like it either. And he said that he took the easy way out. And he got really offended by that. And I was like, uh-oh. You know, because we all know what happens when, like, he gets upset about something and, you know, he turns into a drama queen Jonathan. And for all the shit that I gave the Irish guy in the last episode, by the way, like, he did a good job most of this episode. So that was surprising to me. Ow! Ow! Okay, whoops. I almost jammed my index finger into the desk. That was random. But yeah, the Irish guy did a good job this episode. I thought that his dish looked good. Demir, he made a sashimi dish with salmon, and I really like sashimi. I really love salmon sashimi, so I thought his dish looked really good. And then Carmen's dish, I did feel like looked the best to me. It looked like a restaurant quality dish for sure. If I had to pick one, and keep in mind, I'm not saying that my opinion is definitively what's right, and like he should therefore award the contestants based on what I say, because I don't know, because for some reason, like, he gave people on Instagram the power to influence this fucking challenge. It was stupid. But from all these dishes, I would pick Carmen's to try, as long as she's not mad at me for making fun of her all season. That would be the dish that I thought looked the best. And then the social media voting was proven to be bullshit, because Demir's dish didn't get a high score at all, which, you know, the audience couldn't taste it. And you know that, like, when you looked at his dish, at first I was a little taken back because, you know, it's a sushi dish. You know, it doesn't really look as eye-catching as, like, those other dishes with, like, the fish and the sauces and stuff, and the meats and everything. Like, I know that sushi is meat, but, you know, the big meat pieces and everything, you know, it didn't look as eye-catching. So his dish didn't really get voted very high because the audience couldn't taste it. So he got taken out right away. And Heather Graham 2.0 won because of the ignorant audience. And then Jonathan, once again, I mean, this whole episode he was talking shit. This whole episode he was, like, acting like this, really, really, like, he's just completely exposed himself. Like, he is no longer, like, the heroic, like, good guy chef who makes these great dishes character. He is now, like, a crybaby and kind of, like, full of himself, because he says that, like, Carmen's and Heather Graham's dishes, they don't look good. They look like they're from the 90s. And he says that if he knew that that's what the judge wanted, he would have done a 1990s throwback dish. And I just gotta say, like, I don't know what like a dish that looks like it's in the 90s looks like, Jonathan, but if that's what the dishes look like back then, like Carmen's and Heather Graham's, I think you should be copying them because they look really good. And so like, cuz like that's what I would want to eat, like between that and then I can't even remember what Jonathan made. Like, I would much rather eat those dishes that they put up. So, yeah, like, I guess let's go back to the 90s. At least the 90s, Columbine didn't happen yet, or 9/11, so, maybe we should go back to the 90s and make food like that, And so Heather Graham 2.0 chooses Carmen to take with her on a non-gymnastics trip, which I knew that Heather Graham would not choose a guy to take for her reward, nor should she have, because I think that I don't think that the chefs there really appreciated her or took her seriously, because they didn't take Jason seriously, even though he was a really great chef. And it feels like they're really full of themselves, some of them. I don't think that Sammy's is full of herself, though, and I think that's why she's the best. So the losing chefs, they have to peel nuts for the lamb entree, which I think that sounds like one of the worst challenges of the season, because that just sounds like painstaking work, really, really not something I would want to do. So they really got fucked up with this. And of course, we will continue to talk about Jonathan in a second. Carmen, also, they both do this cryotherapy, and then they do like a little heat therapy or something. And Carmen uses mental gymnastics to feel good about having done cryotherapy. She was like, I don't like the cold. I'm a Miami girl, but I really like doing cryotherapy, I guess. And like that was just totally like straight out of her mental gymnastics playbook. And of course, you got to see both of these chefs in a bikini, which I gotta say, like, that's another reason why this episode is better than the last one. Because, I mean, you just can't deny it. And then, Carmen used mental gymnastics to hype herself up and also hype up Heather Graham 2.0. Because Heather Graham, she said that she didn't feel like she was being taken as seriously because she has the least experience. And it's funny because at the end of the episode, Gordon also proves that he's not taking her seriously, and he didn't take her seriously. Because at the end of the episode, Gordon complains about how she had a lack of experience. And I thought, what a bunch of bullshit. Like, especially because later on in the episode, he says to her, "You're a really fast learner." And it's like, well, if she's a really fast learner, then who gives a shit, like, how much experience she has or how little experience she has? Like, are you serious? Like, that was kind of hypocritical. I'm calling out Gordon. You hear that, Gordon? So Jonathan the crybaby is still crying about Gordon saying he looks like a sack of shit. And even the other contestants in the dorms were noticing how babyish he was. Like, I thought that was funny too, because they were all taken back. They were like, what the hell is going on here? Like, why is he so fixated on that light little joke that he made and that comment? And that was really funny. You know, it was kind of like a wake-up call, because, like, these people, they thought that Jason was bad. They thought that Jason was so terrible because he makes, like, awkward jokes and he's really awkward. But then you have, like, this crybaby drama queen who's, like, the entire episode, he's, like, crying and throwing a tantrum about Gordon saying casually that he looks like a sack of shit. It's like, You could say that about your friend or about anyone. Like, that's not like a bad thing to say when you're saying it in the way that Gordon was saying it. Like, even if he was saying it in a bad way, like, why in the hell would you let that, like, marinate in your brain for, like, an entire service and everything? Like, because cooking in that kitchen seems like it'd be pretty stressful, and that'd be the last thing on my mind. Cooking there is like a little comment that Gordon made like earlier on in the day. Like, who gives a shit what Gordon says? He made those fucking frozen meals. Did you guys try those frozen meals from Walmart? If you haven't, you go to Walmart right now, put on a bulletproof vest in case there's a shooting, because you know that's pretty typical at Walmarts now, and get yourself some frozen meals, and you'll see how little you should care about Gordon's opinion of yourself, because those meals are the shit. I mean, no, they're not the shit. No, they are shit. They are not the shit. If something is the shit, that means it's good. Sorry for misspeaking there. They are terrible. They're awful. There's so much salt in them. I thought they were going to kill me because like, there was so much salt, it was like raising my blood pressure. It was terrible. And Meredith from The Office, by the way, was at this Hell's Kitchen dinner service, as well as Mary Lynn Raxgub. She's a really good actress too. She was in Californication season 7. She was in that Chris Pratt movie that came out a couple of years ago. It was really forgettable, the Tomorrow War. And she was also in Magnolia in a deleted scene. Yeah, she's pretty good, actually. I kind of like her as an actress. And guess what, guys? In this dinner service, guess what the first thing is that is raw? Lobster. For the millionth, gajillionth time this season, the first thing that is raw is lobster. I told you guys. And you know what? Should have kept Jason, because you know that Jason would have cooked the lobster right. You know, like, it's so funny that, like, last episode, Jason, at the end of the episode, he makes a perfectly cooked lobster, and they just acted like it was nothing, and they sent him right home. And then you see right here in this episode, these people, they don't know how to cook lobster, obviously, because every single fucking episode, it's the first fucking thing that they get wrong. And you know as well as I do, Jason would have served up some lobster. He would have served up his fucking lobster to Chef Gordon while everyone's, like, complaining that he's still there again, you know, because that's all they did when he was there. And now that he's gone, it's like, oh, now all of a sudden, like, they're even worse than they were when he was around for some reason. Like, it's almost like he really wasn't the problem that they thought he was, you know? Even though I thought he would be at the beginning of the season. They were just tricking you with the cameras and everything to make it, and the editing to make it look like he would be a pain in the ass the whole season. But then even in the dinner service, Jonathan is still crying about being called a sack of shit. And then Carmen and Heather Graham 2.0, they're screwing up the steaks. They're undercooking meats. And then Gordon, he is actually, I gotta say, one of the best things of this episode was that in this dinner service, he was destroying Jonathan. Like, every time Jonathan would come up there with something, he'd be like, Jonathan! And Jonathan would turn around, and he would be like, what the hell is this? And then Jonathan would have to take it back, and then he takes it back up there, and he's like, Jonathan! He'd have to come up there again and just keep on going back and forth. I mean, that was really, really funny. And to be fair, though, he really was targeting him. I mean, you know, it was very clear that, like, he was giving him shit, and he was like, you know, because he could sense that Jonathan's game was completely off, and that, like, he was really just screwing up right and left. I mean, Jonathan takes up there a raw sausage and everything, and, like, just really bad. And then the Irish guy, he said something that was kind of sexist, where he said that he thought that Jonathan was his biggest competition, which is like the stupidest thing I heard the whole episode, probably, or one of the stupidest things. Because, like, seriously, you're going to tell me that Sammy isn't your biggest competition? Like, you're insane. Sammy is the clear winner of this season. If she doesn't win, no, I'm not going to make one of those types of bets, because I don't even know what I would do. I don't want to, never mind. But I really thought that was a stupid thing to say, that Jonathan is his biggest competition. Like, that's really idiotic. And then Carmen was just shouting random things too. She was horrible at communicating, and she used her mental gymnastics to excuse her failing Demir, because she was just shouting things out and not really letting Demir respond or have any time to do things. And so then she would bring a meat up there, and Demir was then forced to bring up a fish, and the fish was raw, and that was kind of embarrassing. And I gotta say, too, this dinner service was probably one of the most disastrous services of the entire season. So for all that shit that they gave Jason, and, like, pretending like he was this big problem, that, like, why is he still there? It's like, it's pretty funny that, like, now that he's gone, like, they have one of the worst services of the entire season. And then Carmen's like, Demir's over there ruining his proteins. And then, Demir kept on overcooking and undercooking his fish. That Jason wouldn't have done that. And I am fixating on that a little bit, because, you know why? Because they didn't take him seriously, and this is why they should have, because in this episode, you had the fish was ruined. The whole episode, like, just nobody was doing fish right. It was pretty bad. Like, it was pretty amateurish. It was like Master Chef. Like Master Chef meets Hell's Kitchen, which is what this season has been like. And then Gordon says to be on pause. He actually tells Mourinho to pause service, because Heather Graham 2.0, she brought up a beef Wellington that wasn't cut right, and Gordon had to stop service so that he could go over there and teach her how to cut the Wellington. And as soon as he teaches her how to do that, by the way, she is able to do that. But then Gordon stopped the orders after that one was complete, so not everyone in Hell's Kitchen got to eat food, and I thought that was sad. That was really, really sad. Honestly, like, those chefs should have finished that service. I don't care how terrible they were doing. Like, you just saw the looks on those poor Asian women. They were sitting there sad. They were almost crying. And it's like, God, why couldn't they have gotten their food? That's not right. But yeah, like, I thought that was very embarrassing too, the fact that he stopped the orders. That was not a good look. So, and then still, after the dinner service is done, the only thing that Jonathan cares about is how earlier in the day, Gordon said that he looked like a sack of shit. Like, that is the only thing that he cares about. He doesn't care about the fact that people didn't get to eat dinner in Hell's Kitchen. He doesn't care about the fact that they screwed up. He doesn't care about the fact that, like, any of the things that he did. All that he cares about is that Gordon said that he looked like a sack of shit. I mean, isn't that pathetic and girlish? I mean, wow, I just thought, what a crybaby. And then the Irish guy, surprisingly, he voted for Heather Graham 2.0 to be nominated, which was weird because, like, it was clear to me that Demir and Jonathan should have been the ones nominated. But he's biased towards Jonathan, too. You know, they're like buddies. You know, it's kind of like in season whatever when you had those two chefs that really liked it. God, I can't even remember their names because it was so long ago. I don't want to remember because that season sucked. And so, sorry. Gordon sent Heather Graham 2.0 home for not cutting a Wellington right. That was pretty bad. I thought that was really dumb. And, but then at least he did kind of redeem himself a little bit because he did send home Demir too. Which, by the way, I'd like to point out that the whole 6 black jackets thing was immediately proven pointless in this episode because, he had to, send home 2 people. So now, like, the whole thing of having 6 black jackets was, like, a huge waste of time. And then, I thought that it was also really sad that Heather Graham 2.0 went home because she had said earlier in the episode that she was glad to win to prove everyone wrong, that she didn't need to have as much experience. And then, of course, Gordon actually makes a dig at her in his last little line about her. He says, like, she doesn't have enough experience, but she'll be a good chef one day or something. Like, it was really shitty and unnecessary. Like, if all the things, like, to complain about, like, between the calling Jonathan a sack of shit as a joke and then saying that Heather Graham 2.0 didn't have enough experience, I think the worst thing that was said was that. Because I think that it was totally, like, wrong. And I would say that, like, easily that Heather Graham 2.0 is, like, one of the best there. She's way better than Jonathan, that's for sure, because she doesn't let Gordon's little comments about her make her, like, fixate and, cry and complain for an entire episode and throw her off her game. And then Gordon at the end, he kept Jonathan back like a teacher keeping a student back in class after the bell rings to have a little talk to him. And he found out why Jonathan was so upset, and you could just see, like, the look on his face was just complete bewilderment of why this grown man was so offended and hurt by what Gordon said to him. And he was like, what the hell? And so he had a talking to with him, and then he sent him back to the dorms. And then Jonathan proved that he was full of himself because he said, when I'm Gordon's executive chef, he can say I'm a sack of shit all he wants. And I'm like, yeah, right, you're not going to win the season, that's for damn sure. And I really hope he doesn't either, because if he wins, he's going to be a disastrous executive chef, I guarantee it. So anyways, I give this episode an A. I thought it was a huge step up from last week. It was a lot of fun. There were a lot of funny moments. It really felt like an episode that I could say, like, yeah, that is a solid Hell's Kitchen episode. It wasn't like last week where I was kind of, like, sad that I had to give, like, a bad review. And so please like this video and comment and tell me what you thought of the episode. And please subscribe to our channel if you'd like to see more honest Hell's Kitchen reviews. Goodbye, everybody. See you soon.